After waiting for what seemed like an eternity, the stewardess announces over the intercom that, "We're just waiting for the pilots." The passengers look out the window and see two men, dressed as pilots, walking towards the plane. Both men are using guide dogs and appear to be blind. There are murmurs among the passengers, and some believe it is a joke. The men board the plane and go into the cockpit. More concerned murmurs and uneasy chuckles from the passengers. The plane taxis normally to the runway and begins its takeoff. As passengers look out the window, they realize they are nearing the end of the runway. The entire passenger cabin begins screaming, but the plane lifts off just before the end of the runway. The passengers calm down and chuckle to themselves at this point, believing that they fell for a joke. In the cockpit, the pilot turns to his co-pilot and says, "You know, one day those people are going to scream too late and we're all going to die." A very rich man is hosting a grand party at his house where he has recently installed a large pool where he keeps alligators and piranha fish. With all the guests there, he announces that if anyone is stupid, sorry, brave enough to swim across the pool, he will grant them 3 wishes. Clearly there are no takers when suddenly there is a huge splash, and a man swims across to the other side of the pool and breathlessly clambers out. The host offers him a towel and lauds him on his bravery. After recovering, the host asks what 3 wishes he would like. "Firstly, you see that 12-bore shotgun on your wall. Please pass it to me. Secondly, please give me the cartridges for the gun. Thirdly, point out the plonker who pushed me." A man has settled on his seat on an aircraft when a man and a black Labrador sit next to him with the dog sitting between them. Puzzled, the man asks, "I thought dogs weren't allowed on planes." To which the owner states, "I'm an air agent and this is a sniffer dog and he is simply the best. When we take off, I am going to let him off the lead and you will see." The agent duly releases the dog, shouts, "Search!" and it goes up the plane and sits next to a lady a few rows up before returning to the agent and placing its right paw on his knee. "Good boy, that woman is carrying marijuana. I will note her seat number and get the pilot to radio ahead and ensure she is arrested." "Wow, that's impressive," the man retorts. The agent releases the dog again, shouting, "Search!" The dog goes further up the plane and sits next to a man returning in a few minutes and puts his left paw on the agent's knee. "That man is carrying cocaine, so again I will get the police to arrest him when we land." The agent lets the dog off the lead one final time and it returns in a few minutes, jumps on the middle seat and poos all over it. "My God, why did he do that? He's found explosives!" A chicken and a horse are running around the field when the horse starts to sink in a mud hole. "Help me please, chicken, get the farmer." The chicken runs back to the farmyard looking for the farmer. But he is nowhere to be seen, so he jumps in the farmer's Mercedes and drives it to the field, where he ties a rope around the bumper and throws the other end to the horse, telling him to hold on to it. The chicken starts the car again and pulls the horse free. A few days later, they are running around again, and this time the chicken falls in. The chicken shouts, "Help me, please, horse, get the farmer." The horse looks and says, "No need. I can stand astride the hole, you grab my thingy, and I can pull you out." The horse duly stands across the hole. The chicken grabs his thingy, and the horse pulls him clear. And the moral of the story is, if you are hung like a horse, you don't need a Mercedes to pull chicks. Some racehorses staying in a stable. One of them starts to boast about his track record. "In the last 15 races, I've won 8 of them." Another horse breaks in, "Well, in the last 27 races, I've won 19. "Oh, that's good. But in the last 36 races, I've won 28, says another, flicking his tail. At this point, they notice that a greyhound has been sitting there listening. "I don't mean to boast," says the greyhound, "but in my last 90 races, I've won 89 of them, and I only lost the last one as it was tipping down and I slipped." To a horse, they turn around That is absolutely amazing. Would you Adam and Eve it, or who'd have believed it? A talking greyhound. The other day, I ran into my friend Tim and told him about a crazy dream I had. It was just one thing. A giant, glowing number 5 made of gold, shining like the sun. Intrigued, Tim listened as I told him that when I woke up, I checked the horse racing schedule, and wouldn't you know it? The 5th horse in the 5th race was named the 5th element. I took it as a sign. So I did everything in 5s that morning. I ate 5 bowls of cereal, drank 5 cups of orange juice, ran 5 miles, and took a 5-minute shower. I even dressed in the 5th shirt I found and parked in the 5th stall of the 5th row at the racetrack. I went to the 5th betting window and put down $555 on the 5th horse in the 5th race. Then I sat in the 5th row of the bleachers, making sure I was surrounded by exactly 5 people on either side. Tim was grinning by this point. "So, did your horse win?" I shook my head. "Nah, stupid thing came in 5th. A married couple wakes up one morning, and while still lying in bed, the wife turns to her husband and says, "Maybe you shouldn't go to work today." The husband, confused, replies, "What do you mean? Why shouldn't I go to work today?" The wife explains, "I think you've been working too hard. Instead of going to the office, maybe you should take a few days off, pack a suitcase, and go stay with a friend for a little getaway." The husband thinks for a moment and decides to take her up on the suggestion. Within minutes, he's up, dressed, and starting to pack his suitcase. Just out of curiosity, the husband asks while packing, "How did you come to the conclusion that I've been working so hard that I need a break?" The wife looks at him and says, "You were dreaming about your work all night." The husband, surprised, asks, "Really? How do you know I was dreaming about work?" The wife smirks and replies, "Because every 2 minutes you were shouting your secretary's name." There was once a Viking warrior so fierce and powerful that no one dared to challenge him in battle. Seeking a new test of his abilities, he took up a different kind of conquest, staring contests. Sailing across Europe, he challenged anyone brave enough to face him, boasting that he had never lost. To make things more interesting, he even promised to give up all the gold he had pillaged to anyone who could defeat him. Word of his challenge spread far and wide, eventually reaching an Irish couple with a very unusual daughter. She had been born without eyelids. Believing she was destined to win, her parents sent a messenger inviting the Viking to Ireland for a showdown. The Viking, eager to prove himself, accepted the challenge and set sail the very next day. When he arrived, the contest began. Hours passed, then days. Nearly a week later, the Viking's eyes remained wide open, unblinking. At last, the exhausted girl admitted defeat, forfeiting the match. Her baffled mother turned to her husband. How in the world did he keep his eyes open for so long, even against someone with no eyelids? Her husband sighed and shook his head. "I don't know, dear, but you can lead a Norse daughter, and you still can't make him blink." A guy had just started dating a girl he really liked, so he was always looking for ways to impress her. One night, they were at a Rolling Stones concert. During a break, the guy excused himself, but instead of heading to the bathroom, he slipped backstage. There, he spotted Mick Jagger getting ready. Desperate, he approached him. "Mick, please, I need a huge favor. My girlfriend and I are massive fans, and I really want to impress her. Could you come over during the show and act like we're old friends?" Jagger sighed. "I don't know, mate. I'm kind of busy here." "Please, just one moment. After that, I'll never bother you again." Jagger rolled his eyes. All right, if it'll get you off my back." Later, during a break between songs, Mick Jagger walked up to their seats. "Hey, man, long time no see. How have you been?" The guy barely looked up and waved dismissively. Mick, can't you see I'm on a date?" A fellow had just been hired as the new CEO of a large high-tech corporation. The CEO who was stepping down met with him privately and presented him with 3 numbered envelopes. "Open these if you run up against a problem you don't think you can solve," he said. Well, things went along pretty smoothly, but 6 months later sales took a downturn and he was really catching a lot of heat. About at his wit's end, he remembered the envelopes. He went to his drawer and took out the first envelope. The message read, "Blame your predecessor." The new CEO called a press conference and tactfully laid the blame at the feet of the previous CEO. Satisfied with his comments, the press and Wall Street responded positively, sales began to pick up, and the problem was soon behind him. About a year later, the company was again experiencing a slight dip in sales, combined with serious product problems. Having learned from his previous experience, the CEO quickly opened the second envelope. The message read, "Reorganize." This he did, and the company quickly rebounded. After several consecutive profitable quarters, the company once again fell on difficult times. The CEO went to his office, closed the door, and opened the third envelope. The message said, "Prepare 3 envelopes." A man and his family are driving along when he spots a frog in the road and he manages to stop, gets out of the car, and moves the frog to safety at the side of the road. The frog thanks him for his kindness and offers him a wish. The man thinks for a minute and says, "My dog is in the car. I would love him to win the Greyhound Derby." The frog spots the dog in the car and notices it only has 3 legs. The frog says, "With the best will in the world, I won't be able to do that. Is there anything else?" The man thinks and then says, "Can you arrange it for my wife to enter and win the Miss UK Beauty contest?" The frog looks in the car and catches a glimpse of his wife and retorts, "Show me the dog again." A man and wife are in bed when there is a loud knock at the door. The man sees it's 3:30 in the morning but goes down and opens the door. A drunk man is standing and asks if he can help him by giving him a push. "It's 3:30 in the morning. No, I won't, and you're drunk." He shuts the door and goes back to bed. When he gets there, his wife says, "You should have helped him remember when we were going to pick up the kids and you broke down and knocked on a man's door. If he hadn't have helped, where would we have been?" Feeling guilty, the man goes down and shouts, "Are you still there? I'm sorry, but I will give you a push. Where are you?" The drunken mom pipes up, "I'm over here on the swing and I still need that push." One winter morning, while listening to the radio, Bob and his wife hear the announcer say, "We are going to have 4 and 6 inches of snow today. You must park your car on the even-numbered side of the street so the snowplow can get through." Bob's wife goes out and moves her car. A week later, while they are eating breakfast, the radio announcer says, "We are expecting 6 to 8 inches of snow today. You must park your car on the odd-numbered side of the street so the snowplow can get through." Bob's wife goes out and moves her car again. The next week they are having breakfast again when the radio announcer says, "We are expecting 8 to 10 inches of snow today. You must park." Then the electric power goes out. Bob's wife is very upset, and with a worried look on her face, she says, "Honey, I don't know what to do. Which side of the street do I need to park on so the plow can get through?" With the love and understanding in his voice, like all men who are married exhibit, Bob says, "Why don't you just leave it in the garage this time?" One November afternoon when my daughter was in kindergarten, I picked her up after school. She bobbed out to the car and crawled into the back seat. "What did you do today?" I asked. She couldn't wait to tell me. "We learned that boys are different from girls," she chirped. Looking into the rearview mirror, I could just see the top of her head. "My teacher told us that boys have a thing and girls don't," she added. "Well, yes, they do," I said cautiously. I couldn't think of anything else to say, so we were quiet for a moment. Then she piped up again. "That's how girls know that boys are boys," she said. "They see that thing that hangs down, and they know that he is a boy." I mentally calculated the distance home. Our 5-minute commute already felt like an hour. "Did you know that when the boys see a girl, they puff up?" she asked. My palms were beginning to sweat. Well... I was still searching for something new to say to change the subject when she asked, "Why do the girls like the boys to have those things?" Well, I didn't know what to say. I mean, what woman hasn't asked herself that question at least once? "Oh, well, I stammered. She didn't wait for my answer. She had her own. "It's because it moves when they walk, and then the girls see that, and that's when they know they are boys, and that's when they like them. Then the boy sees the girl and he puffs up, and then the girl knows he likes her too. And then they get married, and then they get cooked." That last part confused me a bit, but on the whole I thought she had a pretty good grasp on things. As soon as we got home and I pulled into the garage, she hopped out of the car, fishing something out of her school bag. "I drew a picture," she said. "Do you want to see?" I wasn't sure I did, but I looked at it anyway. I had to sit down. There, all puffed up, so to speak, looking mighty attractive for the ladies, was a crayon drawing of a great big tom turkey. His snood. The thing that hangs down over his beak, the thing that female turkeys find so irresistible, was magnificent. His tail feathers were standing tall and proud. She was a little offended that I laughed so hard at her drawing, and I laughed until I cried. But when I told her I loved it, and I did, she got over her pique. That was the end of that, for her anyway. But I'm not so lucky. Every year I remember that conversation. And to be honest, I haven't looked at a turkey or a man the same way since. A small-town man decides to go to the city. He's a self-sufficient guy, so this is a rare occurrence. However, finding himself low on essentials, he decides there's nothing for it and heads in. Being something of a special occasion, he takes his youngest child with him, thinking it was the perfect chance to show off his knowledge of the world outside to an eager audience. On the trip in, they chatter away until they arrive at their first stop, the bakery. Pulling up, the little one excitedly asks where they are. "Why, this is John the baker, the youngest. You see, when Dad doesn't make any bread, John makes it for him." The little one stares at him wide-eyed and asks, "Is it as good as yours?" With a small grin, he replies, "No, mine is better." And off he went to get the bread. Arriving at their next stop, the little one again queries where they are. "Why, this is Ted's liquor store, youngest. You see, when Dad doesn't make any beer, Ted makes it for him." The little one stares at him, thinking hard, and asks, "Is it as good as yours?" With a bigger grin, he replies, "No, mine is better." And off he went to get some beer. At their final stop, the butcher's shop, the little one thinks the world makes a lot more sense now. "So then, Dad," his smallest child begins, and looks at him expectantly. "Yes, that's right, little one. This is Tom the butcher, and when Dad hasn't made any sausages..." He trails off. "Tom makes them for you?" she asks hesitantly. "Yes, that's right. You are a smart one," he exclaimed. "And yours are better," she shouts. Beaming with pride, he says, "Exactly." And away he goes to collect some sausages from Tom. On the road home, they pass the postal truck coming the other way. "Hey, Dad!" exclaimed the little one. "It's Pete the postman." "Yes, that's right," said the farmer, but sensing what comes next, he quickly continued, "But we need Pete. Your dad is a farmer and can do a lot of things, but I can't do what Pete does." "Oh, yes," she replied. "Mum says so, too." A couple was in Thailand for vacation. They ordered a massage session for themselves, one for him and one for her. After massaging the man for 30 minutes, the Thai girl said, "Massage penis." The man looked sheepish but kept quiet, looking shiftily at his wife. The Thai masseur said again, "Massage penis." There was silence yet again. Finally, the wife spoke. "Don't raise your hopes, my dear. She is simply telling you massage is finished, An old lady is short of company, so decides to buy a pet from the shop. Sadly, there are lots of dogs and cats that she cannot manage. As she leaves, she hears a voice, "My word, don't you look a sight, and that dress suits you to a T." As she looks around, she spots a large green parrot and asks, "Was that you?" "Indeed it was, madam. You look delightful." Well buoyed by the comments, she buys the bird and takes it home. "You know, I am so proud of you, I am going to take you to a restaurant to meet my friends." The parrot replies, "Well, that will be wonderful, and I know a lovely bistro you have just got to try." Her friends duly meet her at the restaurant, and as they sit down, the parrot starts swearing like a trooper and bites the lady and the waiter. Embarrassed, the lady grabs the parrot and heads home. On arriving, she goes down to the basement and stuffs the parrot in the freezer, uttering, "I'll teach you. You can cool off in here until you learn not to swear and bite people." After 5 minutes, the lady takes the bird out, shivering, from the freezer. "Have you learned your lesson?" "Indeed I have, ma'am. This will never happen again." Well, 2 weeks pass and the local vicar comes around. When he arrives, the parrot starts swearing again and bites the vicar. Angry and embarrassed, the lady grabs the parrot and stuffs it in the freezer again, leaving it there for 15 minutes whilst she apologizes to the vicar and bids him goodbye. After 15 minutes, she goes down and takes the parrot out, which by this time is frozen to the bone. "Have you finally learned your lesson?" "I most definitely have it. It will never happen again. I don't know what that turkey had done. He's frozen to the bone. I don't know what he did, but I'm not taking any more chances." A mother and baby camel are talking one day when the baby camel asks, "Mom, why have I got these huge 3-toed feet?" The mother replies, "Well, son, when we trek across the desert, your toes will help you to stay on top of the soft sand." "Okay," said the son. A few minutes later, the son asks, "Mom, why have I got these great long eyelashes?" "They are there to keep the sand out of your eyes on the trips through the desert." "Thanks, Mom," replies the son. After a short while, the son returns and asks, "Mom, why have I got these great big humps on my back?" The mother, now a little impatient with the boy, replies, "They are there to help us store fat for our long treks across the desert, so we can go without water for long periods." "That's great, Mum. So we have huge feet to stop us from sinking, and long eyelashes to keep the sand from our eyes, and these humps to store water. But, Mum—" "Yes, son." "Why the hell are we in Chester Zoo?" 3 friends, a rabbi, a Hindu holy man, and a lawyer, had car trouble in the countryside and asked a farmer if they could spend the night. "I'd be happy to help," the farmer said, "but I only have room for 2 of you in the house. One of you will have to sleep in the barn." "No problem," said the rabbi. "My people wandered the desert for 40 years. I can handle 1 night in a barn." With that, he headed out, and the others settled in for the night. A few minutes later, there was a knock at the door. The farmer opened it to find the rabbi standing there. "I appreciate your hospitality," he said, "but I can't sleep in the barn. There's a pig in there, and my faith considers it unclean." The Hindu holy man nodded. "I'll go instead. Cows are sacred in my faith, but a pig won't bother me." He headed out to the barn. A few minutes later, another knock. The farmer opened the door again. "I'm so sorry," the Hindu man said, "but there's a cow in the barn, and in my country cows are sacred. I can't sleep on holy ground." With a sigh, the lawyer grabbed his pillow,
Fine, I'll go. He trudged out to the barn while everyone else finally got some rest. A few minutes later, another knock. The exhausted farmer groaned, got up, and opened the door. Standing there were the pig and the cow. A man had trouble getting his neighbor to keep his chickens fenced in. The neighbor kept saying chickens were noble creatures and they had the right to go where they wanted. The man had no luck keeping the chickens out of his flower beds. He tried everything. 2 weeks later, a visiting friend noticed the flower beds were doing great. They were blooming and beautiful, so the friend asked, "How did you make your neighbor keep his hens in his own yard?" "One night I hid 6 eggs under a bush by my flower bed, and the next day I let my neighbors see me gather them. I wasn't bothered after that." While on a road trip, an elderly couple stopped at a roadside restaurant for lunch. After finishing their meal, they left the restaurant and resumed their trip. When leaving, the elderly woman unknowingly left her glasses on the table, and she didn't miss them until they had been driving about 20 minutes. By then, to add to the aggravation, they had to travel quite a distance before they could find a place to turn around in order to return to the restaurant to retrieve her glasses. All the way back, the elderly husband became the classic, grouchy old man. He fussed and complained and scolded his wife relentlessly during the entire return drive. The more he chided her, the more agitated he became. He just wouldn't let up for 1 minute. To her relief, they finally arrived at the restaurant. As the woman got out of the car and hurried inside to retrieve her glasses, the old geezer yelled to her, "While you're in there, you might as well get my hat and credit card." A man is suffering from really painful hemorrhoids and has tried all sorts of creams with no change. He mentions this to his mate, who tells him he had them, and what he did was to get a lukewarm used tea bag, break the bag, and rub the leaves on the affected area. He does this for a few days, but they are still painful, and he ends up going to the doctor. After explaining the problem, the doctor tells him to remove his clothes and to lie down so he can inspect the problem, which the man duly does. The doctor looks and says, "Ah, I see the problem. You are going on a long journey where you will meet a beautiful girl." I have a little satnav. It sits there in my car. A satnav is a driver's friend. It tells you where you are. I have a little satnav. I've had it all my life. It's better than the normal ones. My satnav is my wife. It gives me full instructions, especially on how to drive. It's 60 miles an hour, it says. You're doing 65. It tells me when to stop and start and when to use the brake, and tells me that it's never, ever safe to overtake. It tells me when a light is red, and when it goes to green, it seems to know instinctively just when to intervene. It lists the vehicles just in front and all those to the rear, and taking this into account, it specifies my gear. I'm sure no other driver has so helpful a device. For when we leave and lock the car, it still gives its advice. It fills me up with counseling. Each journey's pretty fraught. So why don't I exchange it and get a quieter sort? Ah, well, you see, it cleans the house and makes sure I'm properly fed. It washes all my shirts and things and keeps me warm in bed. Despite all these advantages and my tendency to scoff, I only wish that now and then I could turn the bugger off. The minister was preoccupied with thoughts of how he was going to, at the end of the worship service, ask the congregation to come up with more money than they were expecting for repairs to the church building. Therefore, he was annoyed to find that the regular organist was sick and a substitute had been brought in at the last minute. The substitute wanted to know what to play. "Here's a copy of the service," he said impatiently. "But you'll have to think of something to play after I make the announcement about the finances." During the service, the minister paused and said, "Brothers and sisters, we are in great difficulty. The roof repairs cost twice as much as we expected, and we need $4,000 more. Any of you who can pledge $100 or more, please stand up." At that moment, the substitute organist played the Star-Spangled Banner, and that is how the substitute became the regular. A man and his blonde girlfriend were sitting in a pub watching the Tour de France on TV. The blonde shook her head and asked, "Why do they do that?" "Do what?" asked the man. "Go on them bikes for miles, up and down the hills, round the bends, day after day, week after week, no matter what the weather? Why would they torture themselves like that?" "It's all for the prestige and the money," replied Mick. "You know the winner gets about €500,000. "Yeah, I understand that," said the blonde. "But why do all the others do it?"